Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of LongShorts, our weekly deep dive conversation on business models, finance, and whatnot. With me, my usual suspect, Mr. Sharad Tupran. Hey, Sharad, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm very excited about today.
Yes,
and should be another fantastic chat.
And I think a good I would say, link to last week's conversation, right? Like we had Umang, who keenly looks at the edtech space.
Yeah.
Their product actually started as an LMS.
Yeah.
And our guest today, I think, knows the ins and outs of an LMS very well. I would like to really welcome Mr. Kinner Sachdev. Hey, Kinner, how's it going?
Hey, Nikhil. Hi. Thank you for having me here, guys. Lovely. I don't know if I know too much about LMSs. I'll try and share my 2 cents about what I know.
Yes.
So our journey has just begun. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Great. No, we'll kind
what
of...
have you got?
I think Kinner expected too much preparation at our end. But yeah, I mean, just a bit of introduction. I think I know Kinner for pretty much most of my life, but I know him fairly well for the last 5 to 6 years. And he runs Knorish, which is a very, very interesting concept. And I think for both professionals as well as enterprises, from the perspective of giving out content as well as training solutions. But we'll let him talk about that obviously in a bit more detail. But Kinner, so let's first get into what you have been up to right now. I know, like, you started more from a design consult background, and then not even background actually, design and consult as your first venture, and then
So let me give you the long
picture.
story.
Big
Long story.
Yeah.
So when I was studying for my master's at Newcastle, which was industrial and commercial biotechnology, by the way, I worked as a scientist for a bit, for just about a year, and I figured wanted to do something on my own and something tangible, because biotechnology was super exciting and lovely, but I wanted to do some other stuff. And the head of school for my university at that time, the head of school for biology, knew that I wanted to start something, so he invested, and he said that, why don't you guys start? Here is the first project from the university. And we started as a consulting fit out to get foreign brands, the educational brands overseas, into India and help them expand globally at that point of time, because we were based out of Newcastle. Eventually we moved into India, and we'd helped organizations like Lisa School of Design from Paris to come into India and set up. We'd helped Vattel from Bordeaux, Cardiff Metropolitan Design School from UK, Raffles from Dubai, so several large educational brands. And we were consulting in turnkey solution ways, like we would get them to set up their entire franchisee operation or a collaborative operation, then get their marketing solutions up, their curriculum up, get them the first team. When it gets to a certain size with the number of students, we would take an exit. So that was the operative model.
Right.
And I mean, we figured that we didn't enjoy consulting as much as we would.
So, like, what was they were already kind of running educational setups
in those countries.
Yeah, so what was
they were well-established, large brands.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to like marketing solution, when it comes to curriculum, what kind of input were you guys giving?
So we had teams. Right. We had extended teams. We'd grown it up to 20 plus team within our office as well at that point of time. So there were several challenges. They couldn't enter India just like that. They would need an Indian partner, because there are regulatory issues around what the University Grant Commission allows, and there are several challenges that you have to overcome. At times you'll have to either find a master franchisee within the country or a franchisee partner who would be able to bring that program. Like when Lisa came, we had a master franchisee fronting the deal.
Right.
And then apart from the master franchisee, we had a franchisee that was happy to take the school in Bangalore. But even when you do that, you only have the French diploma being given by the Paris-based institution.
Right.
For the Indian degree, without which no Indian student would want to attend the program, we got Mysore Open State University to do the Indian counterbit of it. So,
so it was like licensing, getting aligned with the norms,
lot of things,
bringing any local partners.
Yes.
The coordination from a product
all
standpoint.
All of
that. That sounds like very hardcore consult on the site kind of work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And but now I think over the past many years, you are gradually moving towards more of automated plug and play type of.
So I'll come to the
solutions.
second bit of that story.
Yeah.
So what happened is that we figured that what we were doing could apply not just to educational brands, but to brands in general.
Sure.
So we started pitching our launch and consult solutions using design for building their launch strategies, their company launches around the world for large companies like Pratt & Whitney, Carrier, Etihad Airlines, we had Polaris, so large brands from around the world. We would do all those launches with these guys. But at the same time,
So the idea was always that this is some sort of a, I would say, expat brand or
most
MNC,
of the time. So
MNC.
70% overseas, 30% Indian brands that we work with.
How were these brands discovering you?
We were reaching out.
Okay.
We would have connects through our connects and networks, and we would reach out. And I can't remember. The first one probably was one of the education brands, also with hands in real estate. I think it was Emar.
Okay.
Right.
So because Emar was kind of vested in Raffles University, which was one of the initial projects.
Right.
And Emar looked at what we had done for the university, and we got connects from there. And I think then one of the first projects was India-Japan Global Partnership.
Yeah.
So we worked on that, and then from where we went to Tokyo and were a part of a large event. And I spoke there at the event. Got connected to Mr. Mukesh Ambani himself was there. There were at that time Mr. Sam Pitroda, a lot of large industrialists. So I think the doors kind of kept opening. I like to talk a lot about what I'm doing.
So you met the head of India's largest unicorn.
No, I didn't get to spend any time. I got like 2 minutes with his better half. With Sadhguru and his better half at that point of time.
Right.
So I put up my pictures on Facebook, was very happy. I got to hang out with the who's who of the country. But yeah, I mean, the hard work, the usual connects, networking, all of that, that's how we were sourcing projects. Yeah. But eventually we started building the product in the education space because this is close to heart. I mean, we've always believed, and I personally am a great believer in the power of right knowledge to be able to transform anybody's life, whether we are working professionals, students, entrepreneurs. I think we are constantly learning, and with the pace of technology today, there's no other way.
Right.
So I'm a great believer in that, and I think the name Knorish also stems from there, which is knowledge plus nourishment. Right. That's what we combined, and we wanted .com, and we knew that all of the guys we were getting into India or helping expand globally, the land and the movement between countries won't be necessary. It'll all go online, and we wanted to own a pie of that. Right. So that's where it started to kind of shape up.
But in between this, there was also Scientity, right?
That the design consulting company was called the Scientity.
So that is something which I think was probably a stepping stone to Knorish in a way.
It still is running. It's not just a stepping stone. I mean, they've sort of incubated us. My co-founder and my life partner Raki still leads it. Right. It still works with these large Fortune 50, Fortune 500 brands. And we are based out of their office. They've started asking rent now because we've raised a bit of funds. So
intercompany transaction.
Yeah, we still don't have any of that. But
there are obviously a lot of cross synergies, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to
all our content, all our design, UI, UX, video production, everything's being done by them.
Yeah.
And I think this is a chat for some other day, that when you're working like this, you should probably build intercompany or at least show some investment, which we didn't. Yeah. So, I mean, but it's been a key part of the entire story.
Okay. Like, if in case of, if I were to ask you, like, okay, what does Knorish do? What is it? How do you kind of make it up?
Yeah, if I'm going onto the website, I've just heard the name, I'm sitting on my computer, I've got into the .com which you've chased, Knorish.com. What do I see? Where do I go from there? What can it give me?
Of course. So what happens on Knorish and what the platform is basically for anybody in the training, coaching, consulting business who's looking, or he's at the moment, or he or she is running a offline business, maybe a coaching class, maybe a yoga trainer teaching 20, 30 people, maybe a stockbroker teaching people how do you invest in stocks. So it could be anyone who's selling knowledge, transacting in information, to be able to go onto the platform and build their entire business digital footprint online using our technology.
Okay.
So let me just elaborate that a little bit more. So they'll need a website.
Okay.
We have a fantastic web builder with hundreds of templates and blocks available off the shelf. So just look at the design that you like and just click install. You get the design installed. Change the images. We also have some stock images already given on the platform. So use those or just bring your own. You can change any part of the information in the easiest possible way. Even on WordPress, you can't do that. You still need a developer support.
Right.
Here, it's so easy that if you've ever used PowerPoint, Word, or anything on the internet, you'll be able to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So that's step one. Then you're going to need other things, like you should be able to upload your content, whether it's video, PDF, PowerPoints, Vimeo, Prezi, whatever the modern type of content is that you've created for your knowledge business.
Yeah.
If you're taking physical classes, maybe you have notes for your physics students or anything like that, upload it on the platform.
Right.
You want to do special live lectures, you can also schedule them or deliver them through the platform.
Right.
You need to accept payments, which will happen even if you're running an offline or online business. So we have integrations of several payment gateways off the shelf. As in, if you wanted to go live in the next 2 hours, you could do that without waiting for the entire RBI payment applications, the entire cycle that you'll have to go if you were to go with one payment gateway. And even with one payment gateway, the transaction dropout rate's quite high with even the best of the gateways in India. So what we have done, we have given a bouquet of gateways out of the box. So when you start selling courses, let's say in Nigeria, in let's say Europe somewhere, or in the UK, your learner or your buyer of your knowledge would see the best gateway suited to that part of the world, and then the APIs that we have built on top of all the gateways would let you run API automations where if a payment falls out, there's an automatic reconciliation. You just have, we bring all the control into the dashboard.
Sure.
And when you're building your business, you'll need several other tools, like you'll need marketing automations, API, plugins with MailChimp, Google, Facebook Pixel. You need a support desk. So all of that kind of comes out of the box for you.
Yeah.
So it's like a one-stop solution for anyone who's trying to monetize their content, right? I mean, with a focus on education, let's say. In terms of your usual subscribers, like, are they more institutional or are they more retail guys who are like good at something and they just try to use your platform?
So at the moment, there is a good mix. We have over 400 content creators on the platform.
Right.
Okay.
There's a good mix. I would say I haven't done this number crunching on how
Sure,
many are
yeah.
institutional, because at the helm of affairs, in a lot of large institutions is like they're basically people.
Yeah.
So we probably have 30-70 types,
Sure.
with institutions
Okay.
being 30% and individuals being 70%.
Right.
And in this first phase, when we're just closing our first round, we'll probably not go after too many large institutions apart from the inbound that we get, because the closure cycle's kind of longer. And it takes a lot of interactions and meetings and
But I mean, that way, from an individual perspective, it's pretty handy, right? I mean, it kind of takes away a lot of the heavy lifting that you need to do from actually deploying your content or your educational solutions online, right? I mean, all those things are kind of pretty much taken care of by the platform, right?
Absolutely. I say about 16 technologies that you're going to need at the minimum.
Yeah.
16 technology tools that you'll have to learn, implement, integrate with so many developers to designers to come on board to be able to build remotely something similar to what we will offer you out of the box.
And
at like
it templatizes that entire approach.
yes, absolutely. And you can't even believe the cost. I mean, one single developer would not cost you less than 50,000 rupees, if you were to kind of do something like that. Here, 50,000 would be your entire year's cost. And you will probably get 20 upgrades and new features released every second month on the platform. So,
and typically these modules, let's call it, what kind of format do they take? Are they mainly videos or?
it's very instructor dependent.
Okay.
There are people who like to video is the first primary content type. Of course, there's no doubt about that.
You guys host it, or
We have our own infrastructure. We use Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS both.
So that is baked in your overall.
Yes,
offering.
so that's a part of our infrastructure. You don't need to do anything outside our ecosystem, And we're going in direction of a PaaS also. That tomorrow, if you want that, I think I'm digressing from the question.
That's the objective of this podcast.
Yeah.
Please.
So, but still, let me just highlight that. So by PaaS, I mean, like, if you are in a village, I've had some people contact me that way. They said, my users, people who are going to do my courses, are farmers. They don't even have email IDs. Can you give me a module where they just need to put their mobile number, get an OTP, and they log in, which is very India specific, or probably Africa and India specific, so to say, if we think global. So what we are trying to do now is we are building a PaaS solution where we say, okay, fine, you have a need like that. Here is the SMS module. Buy the credits, plug that in. So they don't need to even go to a payment or a SMS gateway to do any of that, and they can plug and play services based on their custom requirements.
Right.
So that's where it's leading. And when you asked me about the course types or the content types, so they are varied. Most of the people like to do videos, but we've got a lot of people, like we've got the Aqua Foundation. It's a geophysics and water resource management training company, which is like 300 meters from your office here. Right. And these guys do these programs with primarily PDF documents as the instructional content type.
Reference material, yeah.
Yes, there are videos, but I would say most of the content is PDF.
Okay. And do you guys help in sort of pricing that proposition? I mean, for a content creator, right? Like, I mean, you're solving almost 90% of the problems that I have, and I've just opened up my bandwidth and I can focus on what I do best, which is create content.
Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I don't know is how to value my content, and it's a difficult problem. People often don't know how to value their own content, right? I mean, what is the pricing that they can sort of...
It's not that difficult now anymore. I mean, like, considering that there are parallels for almost everything that you'll try to teach on the internet. You know, all you have to do is look at a few parameters. So to answer your question, no, we don't help you decide the price for it. It's completely white labeled and open to you as a vanilla offering.
Sure. Yeah.
Just put whatever price you want to. But I'm now stepping into the shoe of an instructor because we talk to so many, and I'm trying to suggest how this happens. No, it's pretty easy because there are comparative offerings outside India, within India, or whatever geography they're trying to sell in. And if they are doing it for second time and it's a replica of their offline programs, a lot of times the online price reflects that.
Yeah.
It could be a bit of discount on top of that. Right. And a lot of times, so Aqua Foundation, for an instance, had a good use case. They do a lot of trainings in Bahrain. Now, what they do in Bahrain is they go and deliver these workshops physically at the construction sites of, say, water, oil rigs, and I don't know, like they do so many things. I've just had brief interactions. So what they do in those cases is people who are going to be attending those programs in Bahrain, they get a link on the website that why don't you buy the ticket here? After they buy the ticket, they are already a part of the community that's in India, in other countries who've done this same program earlier or later. They are going to be a part of it. So they all start talking. There's some pre-reading material that's available to them before they kind of reach there. So what essentially Aqua Foundation does is they basically use the platform to power up an offline session.
Yeah, got it.
They're not delivering it online.
Right.
You know, and after the instructor leaves Bahrain, they've got a contact point to him. The entire peer group talks to each other about the problems. They're also sharing opportunities and, you know, whatever issues they face in their jobs day to day. And the instructor is also on call. Instructor also gets an opportunity to upsell. Maybe another program, maybe a pure online program that's in addition to this exercise that he did in Bahrain. So a lot of different formulas there, but the pricing for these guys, for an instance, is an exact offline workshop price.
Right. How do you view like distribution? Like, for instance, in content there are two big pieces, right? One is obviously the content creation part, one is looking at the distribution part. And like the reason why YouTube is attractive is because there are so many people going there, right? So, I mean, people think that, I mean, maybe not now, no longer the case.
By the way, I'm just feeling like I'm again being interviewed by two investors.
That's, they
just came up to.
In terms of, we all like to think like investors, but we don't like to take the questions from the investors, right? I mean, that
you guys have been, isn't it? Like, you've been in the domain. So these are the associate questions.
Plus, it's always easier to ask the question, right?
How do you scale it? How do you track distribution? How do you price it?
I know. Okay, no, I don't mind your question. So, sorry. I get it. Distribution.
No, I mean, like, my point being that in terms of like those platforms, right? They have that. The reason why people go there is because there's that inbuilt network effect, right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that like someone like you guys, you come in, you kind of do the heavy lifting in terms of hosting, in terms of, you know, like giving it in a plug and play model, right? Yeah. But how does the distribution gets hedged for the content creator?
Yeah, there's a longish answer to this.
Yes.
So look at the platforms.
Yeah.
Udemy, Coursera, YouTube is a video.
Yeah. By the way, just to kind of add to my question, like for someone who wants to monetize, right, who has a very clear, deep research-oriented content which has some sort of an actionable value add for the audience, I totally understand Knorish. Right? But like, let's kind of step out of that for a moment. And I'm not even like looking at it from the perspective of your business. Like in general, like there are a lot of, like people make a lot of content on TikTok.
Yes.
Right? And or Instagram.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's very casual. It's very B2C.
Yes.
And for them, the distribution piece suddenly becomes very important, right?
Absolutely.
So sorry. I just wanted to give a disclaimer on that.
No, absolutely. I understand. So our target audience is both the serious guys and the casual guys, because they would all sell content on platforms, on their own brands.
Right.
So I think the angle I want to take to address this question is that first you have to understand that on marketplaces like Udemy, Coursera, and tons of others. I won't quote YouTube there because YouTube is casual viewing. Right? If you understand it, a lot of people, it's a deep vortex of all kinds of content. So if you watched a Bollywood song yesterday and today you're looking to learn something, the second suggestion even after your tutorial ends is going to be a Bollywood song or maybe a mix of Bollywood songs. And so
there's too much stuff going on.
I mean it's a distraction bubble, so to say, and nobody takes it too seriously, for learning stuff, unless you know the channel and the creator of that channel.
Yes.
Even then you have to control and walk in a certain direction, and the content will still be only video, because YouTube is primarily used for hosting videos. And now come back to marketplaces like Udemy and Coursera. We've had content creators on our platform who were also on Udemy, and what one of these guys was doing is go onto Facebook and send his leads and followers onto Udemy to buy his course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he ended up losing 99% of those leads to the top seller in his domain.
Okay.
Because obviously, like
Discovery,
the top guy sold 3,000 students, he's got 3,000 student base, and he's just going on board with 50 or 15. Now, what do you think will look better? And think about a leadership coach. He competes with Jack Welch on Udemy. So that's the kind of environment you get. And the same thing on Coursera. Coursera won't take anybody to let content be there. They're very selective with the university partners and content creators. So that's one of the reasons that discovery really isn't that big of an advantage even on platforms like Udemy. The second thing that happens...
I mean, as per you, it can be a disadvantage as well, right?
Sorry?
As per you, it can be a disadvantage as well, right?
Yeah, so I'll come to that. I find that to be a really good connector for us to let us find new people who want to do this. And let me just add on to that. So the monetization on Udemy, again, or marketplaces, is entirely in the hands of the marketplace. So it is 70-30, they run discounts at times and you only get 20. So those are the kind of scenarios. And then you don't have control of the leads entirely because, your leads could be used to show other programs also. So basically it's not your business that you're building. It's on a very shallow foundation. It's not like really powerfully done. So what we see is that almost everybody on marketplaces and their individual distribution channels would like to open up their own brand as well. Now, we are not saying that don't be there. Of course, you can be there and be here also. So that's another distribution channel. But you definitely need this. It is exactly the same case that Shopify is being able to become a $40 billion company in the e-commerce space when almost every Shopify customer is also listed on eBay or Amazon. But they understand that if they want to build a big, long-lasting brand, they will have to have their own presence. So that's exactly the piece that we are going after here. Now, when it comes to distribution, of course, when you're doing it yourself, you'll have to learn about organic, paid marketing, how do you run ads, and that's not rocket science anymore. Most of the platforms, Facebook to LinkedIn, they don't want organic to be the best content that wins because they want to monetize. They want their ads to be sold more and more. So some of the best-selling guys on our platform, what we have done is we've created 20-minute long capsules on how do you hack growth quickly with performance marketing. So somebody who's made $10,000 last month spent about $3,000 on ads, and he's been able to get the cost of acquisition down month on month. So stuff like that's quite possible, and there's not a deep learning curve that you need to take to learn all of that. And as a business, if you're serious about what you're doing, I think it's important for you to learn all of that.
So you mean like an open distribution or open marketplace? Because
we're not a marketplace.
Because
we are letting them build on their own.
Not, but like in general, from as a thesis for someone, right, to actually be on an open distribution platform. One problem is that in terms of it's not a pipe anymore. It's open for anyone. So obviously you kind of are exposed to the forces of competition there in a totally different way.
Yes.
And the second is in terms of actually hacking the marketing piece. That's no longer rocket science. That's no longer something that people kind of play on as a delta. Whereas in a platform like yours, because it is controlled end to end by the brand, you guys take a step back.
Yeah.
Right. And the monetization is very clear that, okay, if you want to look at the course, pay for it, and that's it. That's pretty much it, right? And
absolutely.
So that pretty much is the different hypothesis that you have built in Knorish, correct?
Absolutely. So that's the truth. At the same time, it's not super easy for everybody to get a hang of marketing. I think if you, and I'm sure you guys are, because you're asking questions like investors, you're going to ask me what is the risk and where do I see the biggest challenge. So I'll answer that.
Right.
This is a big challenge that I see that out of 100 content creators on the platform, only about 6 to 10 are able to get a hang of the right way to market.
Right.
But isn't that the truth in the real world?
Sure.
I mean, you have 100 instructors and tutors, only about 6 to 7 are the ones who really sell even in the real world. So eventually that's and I'm accepting that as the funnel reality.
I mean, to be fair, in terms of, even if you look at Udemy, I don't know that model very well, so I won't comment on it. But if you look at like a more mainstream distribution platform, I think there was a time when there was an early mover advantage there. Yeah, I don't think that's no longer the case, to be fair. Everyone is there, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of a challenge to differentiate. And effectively, the brand owner, the onus of distribution is on the brand owner.
Even on marketplaces now. You're right. Yeah. If you're on Amazon, so when we were doing design consulting, and I know some of their clients are, like one of their large clients is Baby Safety Inc.
Right.
So they do products for babies and safety products for those that age group.
Right.
And I know they sell well on Amazon. So one of the key things that the design consulting people were doing for them was to be able to differentiate on Amazon and to be able to sell better than the other guys selling similar products.
Right.
So the owners, as you very well said, that it is still in the hands of the seller. Even on Amazon, they have to constantly push. It brings them some kind of a revenue and pipes, but then at the same time, if you don't keep pushing and keep innovating, it just dwindles.
Because a solid marketer at this stage will actually tell you, don't do so many things. Do only one or two things, right? Because I think everybody wants to kind of get on every platform. But then if you meet a solid marketer...
There's a great book on that. I'm a big fan of reading, and one of the books is called Traction. From the founder of DuckDuckGo, the competitor of Google. So this talks about 19 channels that are the holy grail of marketing and distribution for anybody out there. I think he's very well put it that you have to focus on the bullseye and only 2 exist in the beginning, and then your best one will kind of be cleared from there. So I agree what you're saying. So some of these things, like all the knowledge, so stuff that I'm sharing here, one of the key goals that we have now is we are also building an academy on Knorish with tons of online courses and content. So anybody who's a new first-time content creator can attend a 10-minute session on how do I hack video shooting? Like how can I start shooting amazing content with just my mobile device?
So that is your own in-house content?
Yeah, we are producing all this all these courses. Right. Eventually, I'll probably have guest speakers and people like celebrities to also do content on this. But at the moment, it's us pushing a lot of it. Like how do you hack marketing, scaling, growth, performance marketing? How do you run ads? So the goal is that we want it to be an automated system, where people get answers to all their questions, doesn't matter what part of the world they come from. And we have that knowledge base, we have that academy that kind of powers them. Luckily for us, there's a lot to learn from Shopify. Because, they've just cracked this very well for e-commerce.
Canadian company,
in terms of the rights to that content, right? That's completely with the creator of content.
Absolutely. It's their IPR. We don't even have access to it. It's all encrypted. We basically, if they want any support or anything, we have only certain things that we can, look at and offer them. So it's entirely their IPR. They have all rights to it at all times.
Okay. And sort of the revenue model, like, is it sort of based on a percentage of fee? Like, how do you sort of monetize such a robust
there's a SaaS
platform?
fee,
okay,
which is like a monthly fee. There are 2-3 different plans. Apart from the plans, we also have a transaction fee if you use our payment service.
Sure.
and we have a payment service also. So if you don't want to go with your own payment gateway, but we're also launching custom payment gateway options. So if you don't want to go with our payment service and you feel like, okay, I want to save the 0.5 or 1% extra transaction fee that I get charged on through Knorish payment service, then just go with your own Razorpay, PayPal, whatever. We are also launching Stripe for Europe and US in about 20 days. So all of these custom payment integrations are coming and getting launched in about 20 days.
It's interesting. I'm just loose parallels here, and I'll go on a tangent as well. But Nikhil and I spent a fair deal of time talking about other US companies and things like that, and all the companies that we look closely at as Netflix, and sort of they built their brand leveraging on other people's content, right? Back in the day, I mean, when stock was sub 100,
original programming came in.
Before original programming came in, and at that time, I used to cover the media sector. The big thesis was that there will be a day and time when people will pull out their content, and and sort of Netflix hedged that by thinking ahead of time, and and you guys are doing that, and that's such a progressive thing to do, of putting in your content as well, because I mean, it will never happen. It's never happened to Netflix as well, because the platform is so reputable. But the risk is, what if one day everyone pulls out? Then you still have some content. It's a black swan event, but that's sort of how they thought about it, right? Is that sort of it's just an interesting parallel.
So we're not a marketplace. Like Netflix is a very different environment. Netflix is, let's say, comparable to one of the content creators on our platform. So what I'm trying to say is that Netflix is a market for you to consume all that content. Whereas we are enabling...
You're on the supply side.
Yeah, our goal is to enable millions of people to build their own mini Netflixes of their content. If you know what I mean. So, I mean, that's the goal. So we never want to have any content, so to say. We don't have it'll be antithesis to build our own marketplace, so to say.
That's interesting.
So we don't want to do that. It's the Shopify thing. Like you will let them build on their own brands. You're not going to be an Amazon again.
So it's fairly de-risked then. That's pretty interesting.
So I guess you're looking at it from a supply side, someone like Netflix is looking at it from a demand side. That's the difference, right? I mean, like in case of Netflix, I mean, if you're looking at a movie, if you're looking at some sort of a show, that the entire post-production, everything is already done. Their entire content production, Netflix has nothing to do with it. Not now. Now they have their own thing. But earlier, before it became what it became, at that time it will be a Warner Brothers movie or a Disney movie, right? And then Netflix becomes like a distribution platform. But with you guys, it's flipped. With you guys, you actually are the content creation engine.
Yes,
these
you
guys
could say that.
Kind of, which these guys depend on.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, quite interestingly, it's not just, it's a SaaS for consumer tech. A lot of people, a lot of our investors that I meet also say that, I think it's a good idea that you do talk about that it's a SaaS consumer tech, because see, there are a few people that we were talking to, and one of these guys had a comedy show.
Right.
So he built a website quickly in a day. He already had the comedy show shot at one of the clubs. Right. He just put it up there, grab a popcorn, pay ₹600 and watch the show now. Right. So do you see that's kind of like he built his own Netflix for a single show, and he's got 1 million followers on Facebook. Now if he converts 1% of that for 600 rupees, I mean, he makes a decent cut. Now that's kind of a big shortcut in comparison to if you were going after a Netflix or an Amazon Prime to screen it, which doesn't happen for 99.9% of the comedy artists. So there are a lot of applications here. Then I see applications with consumer companies, like for an instance, a technology company building their own academy on their website saying, this is how you use my device to the best. Here is a small course on becoming an expert. Here's a small course on hacking your way around it. So stuff like that. Building your entire academy for a software, or there's so many use cases.
But if you look at this, if you kind of draw the line between individuals and let's say enterprise, right? With individuals, it's pretty clear, right? I mean, there'll be freelancers, there'll be experts, professionals who want to build on what they're doing and rise up. But if you look at organizations, I guess for them the use case might be more inward looking. For the employees, they want to do something.
It's very interesting. So I'll give you an example. I was with Ankit, Dine Out's founder, just about 2 weeks back. Ankit Mehrotra from Dine Out, the co-founder. And his head of training and him, we were talking, and so they explained something really interesting, because they're a Times Internet company. one of their major investors, and Times Internet is a Bennett Coleman group companies. So they have from the Bennett Coleman level, they have an LMS, a technical HR and a learning management system that their organization plays upon. One of the challenges that comes with those technologies is that they have about 900 people in their company now, and a lot of those are salespeople who are on ground talking to restaurants, onboarding them. And old technologies are not designed the way the Netflixes of the world are now designed. They're not good for delivering content on mobile devices, which is streamed super quick, is in that kind of a user interface. So the old LMSs put you to sleep. I really mean it, because we've in the design consulting, we've done those projects as well. They literally put you to sleep because there are hundreds and hundreds of functions, dashboard links, and they look like from the Iron Age, clunky piece of software. So what we have done is we have taken, I'll show you the demo of the platform when we get time. It's like the iPhone take on the old phones. We have just taken out all the stuff that's not necessary, built from scratch, basic, clean UI where the learner, even if he's at a restaurant, he gets a SMS saying, here's a new training that you've been sent.
So you get a link.
You get a link in the SMS. He clicks on it. He starts, consuming the content right in the browser. No app to be installed. It could be a progressive app, that runs in the browser itself, super quick. So all of that happens, and there's so many possibilities. Like we had an auto rickshaw company delivering training for its drivers. Using
especially like skill based, and it's so essential to get them.
You asked me about enterprise.
Every quarter you need to make sure that the training modules are all in
another
place.
Excellent use case. Heads Up for Tails. They're one of the best and the most luxurious pet store chain in the country right now. Rashi is the founder, and I met Rashi a few months back, and she had this clear problem of not being able to train the 100 odd people in 25 stores across the country on, the cat needs this kind of product chain. A German Shepherd is different from a small pug. So all of that. Now they've built a lot of content, and they use the platform to kind of train their sales staff on that kind of piece. So they use Knorish for that kind of an environment. We've got Gem Pandit, a company selling precious stones and gems to the Nawab's family and in the US. They use our training to train astrologer partners spread across India on how these run by Nitin, so they train people on how do you basically sell these gems, so you don't sell this to this guy, his astrological charts not match to this stone. Stuff like, every business has its own nuances and technology related issues. So,
but like when it comes to learning and development, internal training, there are organizations which are very proactive in this. But then there are always, big beasts, big MNCs which have a lot of inertia in terms of, how to make the L&D better. Right? It's not like they're not doing anything. We both had the privilege of working in big multinational banking setups, right? And trust me, we had so many training modules every month, right? Compliance, regulatory, and whatnot. And they're not interestingly done, but they have to be done. Because the regulator, is asking you either your organization, I was in HSBC, that was under a deferred prosecution agreement with the SEC. So if something goes wrong, then the board actually has criminal liability. So they were really scared, and they really wanted to make sure that we know about what are the latest, regulatory aspects. So I think you should approach big banks.
I'll be more than happy for you to open the door. But the problem...
outside India. I think because there's that regulatory overhang.
It's a much more enforced.
I've tried.
Right.
But to be honest, and we're candidly talking here, I've not been able to sell to any large corporation, for this. I did try and waste some time on those.
But is it like bureaucratic inertia, you think?
I think that.
That, right?
Plus, they don't want to experiment with stuff that looks that, modern and Netflix-like for training. They feel like, okay, where are the 100 buttons? Because, you got a video continue from where you left and stuff like that. Where's it all that? So, I don't know. I'm not focusing on that at the moment because I feel once I have a critical mass of a few thousand content creators originally, then it also becomes another proposition angle, the platform effect, where there could be a lot of cross play. So the HSBC would then get training from the best-selling author in the country, the leadership training that he does, or maybe health and hygiene training from somebody like Sanjeev Kapoor, who's probably going to be on the platform. So those kind of content pieces can be just plugged on to the enterprise. So a lot of cross plays can happen at that stage.
A lot of content creators, like another thing they really look for is analytics, right? They want to test how they've done and look for things. Is that something that you guys help extensively with as well?
Yeah. So the platform has a lot of dashboards and we constantly keep building on that. But eventually what we've understood that most of the stuff that they want to look at is engagement and monetization.
Okay.
Not much beyond that. At enterprise level, there are other things that people look at. But that product, we are not focusing as much as we are on the publisher side. Though it's a fairly mature product. I quoted a few companies already using it. So we have people using it and it's been serving them well. And as we get the feature requests and things that need to be built, we evaluate them and build them as and when required. But we'll focus on that probably after maybe 2 years or 18 months. We're not looking in that space right now.
That's super interesting in terms of overall proposition, but how come this is like corporate skills, professional training? Like obviously you started with universities, you started with consulting with them, and there must have been a time when you realized, oh, this is a gap I need to look at, right? Was it like some entrepreneur friend who asked you that, look man, I've set up a site, there's so much work, I wish there was something. Like, was there some eureka moment where you thought that, okay,
there must be a better way.
There is a gap, there must be a better way. Or was there something much more iterative, organic, and then you realize, okay, this is something which is already being built on its own, let me put it under an umbrella?
Yeah, it was like that. We were planning to be a marketplace. We were planning to be another Udemy for India.
Right.
In the beginning. That's what we thought that we'll do. But eventually we figured that, that's not the way we want to take it forward. It's not that exciting for us to build a marketplace and then get everybody on board. And then there was the challenge of bringing everybody on the marketplace, get both sides of the marketplace going. So we never actually built that product completely. We decided to kind of switch from there and just started focusing on the B2B angle.
On the supply side.
Yeah, we thought that, okay, this is a bigger play and an more interesting play. And we understood B2B probably just happened because of that. We were already selling in terms of consulting and the service model to businesses, so we could relate and even to individuals or people who were in that sector. So I think that's how it happened. There's no specific movement.
I was I think that's how pretty much most businesses kind of go in, right? There's if one likes to think that, I'm kind of thinking of the typical, you can say the name, like typical your story, where, I was under a tree and suddenly there was a light bulb switched on and I was like, okay, I need to get this done, right? This is
nothing like that. But because being in the domain and consuming so much of knowledge, reading, we do a lot of online courses to ourselves. We attend so many of them. So clearly this is a domain that we kind of think about, keep a check on and learn about at all times. So and it's been like this for a very long time. In fact, our consulting business was also trying to help educational brands, and universities and organizations. So we stayed in the domain. We loved it. We are not here because we saw an opportunity. It's pure passion based. This is what we like.
What sort of long-term growth strategies that you think about? As comfortable as you are to speak about it, is it sort of just widen base, like get more clients? Obviously, that's the most intuitive sort of growth. But are there other areas that you think or aspirational companies that you've seen who've cracked this knowledge space or who've cracked this area, and you're like there's some interesting things there?
Yeah, Teachable in the US has done really well, which is like a great product. Interestingly, they started building at the same time, but because they were only doing that, they could do really well. So my suggestion to a lot of fellow entrepreneurs always is that focus on only one thing, do or die there, and you'll be able to move much faster. But they've done extremely well. It's valued at about $200 million now. So we really like it. What we have built, but interestingly, because we were looking at them, so we built a better website builder than them. Our attention to design is even superior than what they've been able to do.
Probably because you're design consulting.
Yeah, probably. So our attention to detail there is super important, and we don't let anything get past our eyes that way. So we've paid a lot of attention to all those domains, and there's several advantages. And we're also building for India first. So that's where we are also bringing in a lot of differentiators that are specific to this country.
Yeah.
So Shopify, to broadly say that I think
Sure,
that's
yeah.
so much to learn from.
Yeah.
It's such a great company, and they've done so many things fantastically well. So a lot to learn from them.
Right. But I mean, in terms of obviously we were not asking investor questions, but you thought we were asking investor questions. But now let's talk about investors, right? I
Yes,
mean, in terms
of course.
I obviously know from a funding perspective some very positive developments have happened. And how was that? And I also know you before those developments had happened. And I'm sure, that kind of leaves a kind of footprint, on the founder in terms of the overall learning through that entire process.
Absolutely.
And what you liked, what you disliked.
So I'll tell you about myself. Like when I think something to be a problem, the take that I have is read 10 books on it first.
Right.
Which is so cliched and boring.
Right.
But I read every shit that was available on funding
out
there, and understood everything from the LP carry and stuff that I didn't need to learn about. But I learned all of that.
Right.
And it wasn't still working because I wasn't able to give full time to it, and I was in so many boats, so to say. So 100x happened. I was speaker at Thai Global Summit last year, and so was Mr. Sanjay Mehta, who I fondly call Sanjay by now. So he was there as a speaker. I met him at the speaker's lounge, told him that this is what we are building. I know you're doing 100x.vc, which is like the Y Combinator of India. So they're trying to make the series, the seed funding simplified. It's help people do that, and it's much more than that. So what happened then was that we pitched, and luckily it clicked, and they invested in us. So we were the first class of 100x.vc, the first cohort, and I think it was super fantastic. Sanjay Mehta himself is considered to be one of the most prolific and most well-known angel investors in the country. He was one of the first ones in Oyo rooms. I think it was even before the Lightspeed check when they were Oraville Technologies. So this was very early on, and he had a big exit on it. But what ended up happening was that we learned a lot from that. They had a 20-day long interaction after they invest in the company in Mumbai, where we met the who's who of the investment world, some very successful founders, people who've had exits, including say Akrit Vash from Haptic. There's just a 20 people group talking to him for hours, and people like those, funds coming in, their heads, their MDs. So those 20 days were rigorous. It was like a mini MBA in fundraising, so to say, when you get taught all the nuances of how you do it. So great learning experience for me, because doesn't matter how much you read in that, when you're in interaction like that, you get to ask questions. Those are tailor-made to your situation, and you could overlap them with your problems then and there. So great learnings. Some of the best guys I made friends with, and I learned a lot from, included Sony's ex-CEO Uday Sodhi, to so many other guys. I could go on and on about it. So it was great overall. They just didn't invest in the company. They've opened so many doors, because one of the founding partners is also Ninad Karpeji, who's basically was the Aptech's MD. And he built Aptech from 3 centers to 3,000 centers. So he's an icon in the, let's say, education and tech space,
training and education,
training and education domain. And he's been a champion for us. He's connected with the who's who of the investment world, to so many people, large organizations, corporations, who are now becoming our clients. So just in the last,
there's a lot of cross linkage that way.
Absolutely.
But in terms of thematic bends, what did you see in terms of how this is obviously a fairly distinguished community of investors in the same room or around the same area, right? There are always a lot of investors have thematic lenses when they're looking at the space. It's B2B, it's going to be consumer play, middle class play, EdTech, people have those, investors often put those lenses because they're looking at so many companies, and it's very difficult for them to go deep into every model. So those lenses always, come across. Sometimes they are kind of advantageous. Sometimes they also tend to put people in a pigeonhole.
In fact, their teams are also structured in those teams, right? Like one guy looks at media, one guy looks at EdTech or whatever. No, so it was very different with 100x.vc. One of the great things with Sanjay Bhai's team has been, apart from
Ninadji, who's looked at the space so closely. In fact, he mentioned to me that he thought of building something like this in the app tech days, but whatever you think about, like at that time, the internet wasn't ready, the mobile screens were not there, so the entire ecosystem wasn't ready for some play like Knorish, so but he understood, like right there. Apart from that, so Sanjay Mehta also invests with Mehta Ventures in the US. They invested in almost like 20 plus companies with Y Combinator last year, and they have investments in some of the most well-known names in blockchain to globally. I'm not talking of India. Yeah. So their lens is very global, and the insights that I've interacted with tons of investors post that and prior to that. So I get that his lens has been very different. When you spend time with him, you get it that he's somebody who's built a few businesses, took exits from there, invested in some very large companies. But the way he looks at businesses is from that perspective, sector agnostic. A lot of it is founder based as well, because in that stage you only have a few markers. Some of the companies are advanced stages where they have customers. Some are building the second levels or third levels of their prototypes, and so most, I would say, out of these 20 companies anyways, this was taken down from 2,000 to 20. They had about 2,000 applications to select these 20. Right. So there was quite a bit of filtration done at that stage anyways. So I mean, for me overall, I think it's brilliant. I mean, and it's a convertible note, it's a CCPS. Right. So you don't dilute there, but it happens in the pricing round. Yeah. So it's more of, you don't look at it only as an investment. I think it's key at that stage, the ability to open those kind of doors and to get those connections, insights, and he's been such a key. Like one of the conversations we had just a few days ago, it's very relevant to what you're asking. He said that the payment piece is an extremely important piece of your entire business, because it almost could be a fintech play. So if you look at it, Shopify's about 25% revenue comes out of their payment service. Yeah. And that kind of speaks about it, that we'll have to strengthen that bit quite a lot. So several insights like that, and some of the hacks that he talks about are super brilliant, that we are working on right now. But yeah, all of that, I think it really helps to have mentors and industry guys.
So can we expect like a payment platform from Knorish as a co-branded proposition at some stage?
So interestingly, I was with Abhilash, who's the CEO of National Stock Exchange Academy yesterday morning, and he suggested me to go to the global fintech event that's happening in Mumbai. Probably send me a link, probably next month or in March. I couldn't see it at that time, and this was the second time somebody said to me, this is a fintech play, because you're enabling people to earn more and to be able to accept payments and increase their earning capacity, or creating these dollars and stuff like that. Yeah. So maybe because he looks at everything from that stock exchange lens, maybe it looks like a fintech play. Right. But I clearly see that I'll have to strengthen that quite a bit.
Because from a merchant perspective, it's quite interesting, right? I mean, if you have that kind of flexibility built in.
Or the easier way, just start writing some subprime loans, you'll become a fintech play.
No, but I think I'll have to work quite a bit on the entire payment piece. Yeah. Because it's clear that one experiment that we did, we spoke to a lot of guys who are not even on the internet right now, a lot of small instructors and trainers, and forget payments, they don't even have their own websites and basic web presence, apart from a listing on Just Dial, which they don't know anything about, so to say. So I think that will eventually be an important piece of it, because a lot of these guys would need that to be solved. So we would focus on that for sure.
I mean, because there's that entire, wasn't that account aggregator discussion that we were having? It was after the Plaid acquisition, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of like Visa acquired Plaid, right? Plaid is like it's a $4 billion acquisition. It happened, I think,
2 weeks back.
3 weeks
back.
What
was Honey?
Visa, Visa, right?
So I know Honey was acquired for $4 billion.
No. This is this company is called Plaid. So they are basically like it's a layer between, because banks have antiquated gateways, right? And banks have antiquated systems in general, right? Yeah. And like most of the banks don't even have those kind of dynamic API based platforms plugged into them, right? So Plaid Plaid is a company which broadly is called an account aggregator. So they act as an interface between, so for instance, if you have a bank account, like on ICICI, and let's say you actually are on the Grow app trying to buy a mutual fund, and you just got some funds credited in ICICI, someone like Plaid will come in between and it kind of owns the integration layer and it will tell, oh, by the way, you just got some funds credited, so maybe you can deploy this into this particular fund. So that kind of cross data linkage.
I'm a big fan of Razorpay in India.
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff.
So like Razorpay won't have visibility in your bank account, but Razorpay through a platform like Plaid in between.
What do you mean by visibility in a bank account?
Like it won't actually know
interface with
like if there's a query which goes to kind of withdraw funds from your bank, that Razorpay would do, right?
Yes.
But it won't know when new funds have come into your bank.
It does now. So there's a new service.
But cannot use it. That's the point.
So obviously, I don't know, they can take that decision later to use it, but what they've done, it's a brilliant product. We're talking about Razorpay now, but I love the product. They've done an excellent job there. So Razorpay X and SmartPay, one of the big problems that everybody has is like an enterprise. Suppose somebody was activating on Knorish's enterprise plan. They would never go and swipe their card to make that payment. They'll say, send me an invoice, I'll make the payment, and then I'll call you or you'll get to know and you activate my account. So what Razorpay does is they give you, through an API, you can generate a virtual account.
Yeah.
It'll be a virtual account number. And it automatically, after the automatic generation of an invoice for this corporate, they also see an automatic bank account number. As soon as the money hits into that virtual bank account, the API triggers, whether it's by check or by a bank transfer, the API triggers the activation of your platform to issue the license.
Right.
So that means there's no human involvement of reconciliation, looking at did the money offline came into my account.
Yeah.
Because the account's only created for that payment.
No, but the thing is that this is still one-to-one, right? This is when you say account aggregation, that means all your accounts. So say if I have 6 accounts,
I get it.
I have a current account. I have a
But QuickBooks does that for me.
So
QuickBooks looks at all our accounts.
Sure.
And it tells me what the balance is and it reconciles and tells me, okay, this cash is available here.
But the thing is
it's just reading it.
I mean, it's just reading it, right?
Yes.
And because you have given consent
yes.
to all of them, correct?
Yeah.
So an architecture like Plaid comes in between. Like I think in India there's a company called Setu. They're doing the same thing.
Okay, I don't know.
That's also an account aggregator. So what they do is like at every window, imagine every bank has a single interface. Okay, and through that interface you authenticate.
So it's like API banking.
So so all your banks can actually technically talk to each other.
Yeah, I know.
And you have de facto given consent to each and every one of them.
Banks are I think they are in a big danger. I looked at bankopen.co and what Razorpay is trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just that banks will look antiquated to you because the features that you need to do stuff like this, they just don't exist. So I really like it. However, it also brings the risk of hackers and all your money in the cloud. Yeah. So maybe things like blockchain and all are really needed to kind of control that. Yeah, but we digressed again.
We've covered a fair bit.
Yes, we kind of ended up with our favorite topic.
It happens with me all the time. I mean, I'm talking to somebody and they drag me down to their favorite topic. Yes, right? Yes. It's okay. I do that all the time.
Yes. That is quite selfish. And I think it was great.
Pleasure
to catch up on Knorish, on Sanctity, on Razorpay.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Will you invest in my company? Now, as you've asked me questions like investors.
So
for us, the only bar about investing in any company is capital. So
no, wait, hypothetical questions.
Yeah.
Monopoly money.
Yeah.
For
sure.
For
sure.
Okay, fantastic.
For sure.
So who's worth it?
Yeah. I mean, I've invested in like when I was just about to enter India. At that time, I invested in a premium superbike EV company.
I know.
Right?
Which is super cool, isn't it?
So that is quite that is not the usual.
That's what makes you a celebrity, Nikhil.
Yes. They put my picture on the website.
Like Dhoni can say, I have 50 super bikes in my garage, and he can say, I have a super bike company in my garage. How many people can say that, guys?
I think it will be kind of. I think on the cool quotient, having the bike probably is better.
That's the next step.
Yeah, that's the next step. But I just thought, let me just get some equity first.
It's super cool, man.
I took that, finance hat.
Yeah, it's like Batman, going for a date and saying, you like this bike? I'll buy the company for you tomorrow.
Yes, I wish that was the case. And Well, I don't have anything to add on that point.
Okay, cool.
No, this was a great chat. Learned a lot about your business, and yes, I would invest.
Awesome, man.
It sounds a very promising.
I'll
business.
send a UPI request.
It's a will it go through Razorpay?
And we will not invest in Udemy since you made it so.
But I'm actually taking a course right now on Udemy.
The courses are amazing.
So I'm trying to do something, but no. It's a full hour, and time has just flown. We covered a fair bit, and this was a thoroughly fruitful chat. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And no, I think usual. I would say end of the podcast comments. Do put in your feedback, listeners. Do let us know if you like the content that we are doing. If there are any suggestions, if there are any guests who would like to come up, also just hit us up on the comment section, and it will always be a pleasure to explore such avenues. With that, I would say this is Nikhil Arora.
This is Sharat Tupran
signing off.